Hello and a very warm welcome to Middle East Matters. The top stories across the region this week. Revelling in the revolution, Iran celebrates the 35th anniversary, buoyed by recent relief in sanctions and progress in nuclear negotiations. But our reporters show us certain details that have yet to be ironed out. Still talking about Syria. More discussions get underway as civilians caught in the conflict finally get to flee the hell of Homs. And laughing about a lack of resources, we catch up with a new form of funny in Gaza. Tens of thousands take to the streets of Tehran to mark the 35th anniversary of the Islamic revolution that toppled the pro-US Shah and brought Islamists to power. Speaking at the celebrations above a somewhat traditional din of anti-American chanting, President Hassan Rouhani called on world powers to match Iran's fair and constructive attitude towards nuclear negotiations. Indeed, the anniversary comes as Iran enjoys a thawing in relations with world powers. Under a deal signed in November, Tehran agreed to curb its nuclear production in exchange for an easing in some sanctions. This weekend, Iran agreed to offer more information to help allay continued suspicions held by the UN nuclear watchdog that it is continuing to push to produce an atomic bomb. But as our reporters Alex Turnbull and Antoine Mariotti found out, there are a number of outstanding issues that still need to be addressed and sites to be sniffed out.
It made the front page of most national newspapers. For the Iranian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, this weekend's agreement is another step towards the peaceful resolution of the diplomatic row over the country's nuclear program. But some of the more sensitive issues have yet to be addressed. The 7-step program doesn't, for instance, allow for the full inspection of the facilities in Parchin, despite the International Atomic Energy Agency insisting for the past 2 years, its experts should be granted access to the site.
That this is a military base. It does not have anything to do with the nuclear activities there. The IAEA inspectors have visited Parchin at least twice in the past. They couldn't find anything, any wrongdoing.
Authorities insist they have nothing to hide. Last December, inspectors visited the heavy water plant in Arak to allay concerns over the site's true industrial purpose. But the regime refuses to be pushed around.
Definitely it's a red line. We cannot accept any closure of either Fordo, Arak, Natanz, or any sites that we have. So Arak is definitely one of them, and we cannot accept even the idea of closing Arak.
Despite Iran's new approach to negotiations with the West, the international community is looking very closely to see if the country's serious about addressing its concerns over its nuclear program. Still, and although most of the sanctions are still in place, people here are confident that the future will bring peace and economic stability.
We have hope that the cost of living will drop. It's been very difficult for us. The situation isn't ideal, but we're optimistic.
Frozen assets will be made available and the economy will pick up.
But not all are as enthusiastic.
People are tired. Who here has a job? Look around. Do you see them buying anything? They are all jobless.
Last November's deal was a first step, but residents here say it will take time before Iran signs a final agreement and international sanctions are altogether lifted.
Rebels in Yemen reject the plans for a 6-region federation, saying that the current division of land does not allow for the equal distribution of wealth. After a year of deadly fighting, followed by 10 months of talks, the plan to form a new federal political system was finally settled on last month. But it appears that drawing the line under the agreement won't be easy.
Yemen could soon be redrawn on the map. On Monday, a panel headed by President Abdrabbu Mansour Hadi agreed plans to transform Yemen into a decentralized federation of 6 regions. The country would be comprised of the provinces Aden and Hadramaut in the south and east, and Azal, Sabah, Janad, and Tahama in the north and west.
I like the idea of dividing Yemen into regions. It's the only solution for avoiding the separation of north and south in Yemen. It's the only solution.
For me, as a young man who took part in the Yemen uprising, I do support this move.
6 regions is better than 2, one in the north and one in the south. But the question is whether the government will be able to manage the resources and oil wealth to provide for all these regions. This is what we are waiting to see.
Northern Shiite rebels too said the new federation would perpetuate economic disparities. Southern Yemen's autonomy in the new federation falls short of the independence the region had until unification in 1990. Critics say the new 4 northern provinces would have more power than the 2 in the south.
The demarcation of the country has been done too hastily and without proper consideration of the disparities in economic development and population in the 2 districts.
The national dialogue leading to Yemen's new constitution was stipulated by a United Nations-backed roadmap that ended protests against former President Ali Abdullah Saleh in 2011. He stepped down the following year in 2012 after 33 years in power. The federal structure will be put to a national referendum. If the president overcomes the pointed dissatisfaction to gain approval, the change will be enshrined in a new constitution to be voted on within 1 year.
Syria's government and opposition sat down Tuesday to start another round of peace talks. Talks that are leading to little action so far. One small win for locals came this week as a mission to evacuate the thousands trapped in homes finally got underway. For 3 days, civilians who had been caught in the conflict were helped flee, even though the first aid convoy came under fire on Saturday. Getting out of the hell of Homs is one step, but refugees who cross the border often find themselves wandering and wondering where to go.
For many, the mud and damp are among their first experiences of Europe. These families are Syrian refugees, and they fled the fighting back home for Bulgaria. Living conditions are grim. Many Syrians look to move on elsewhere. Bilal is just one of the Syrians seeking refuge in Europe. A teacher by trade, he left his family more than 4 months ago. Since then, he's wandered from country to country. Tonight, he's trying to cross the border into Romania. Bilal admits he's feeling rather nervous.
I can't stop worrying. I'm scared. I've really got the feeling that I'm going to be arrested.
Bilal passes the Bulgarian border controls without too much trouble. Now Romanian customs officials must give their go-ahead. Bilal shows a French ID card. The inspector appears unconvinced. Eventually, after a long examination, the official returns the card. The inspectors are on their way. Bilal reveals that the card is authentic, but belongs to a cousin living in France. Relieved, Bilal tries to reach his wife by telephone, without success.
I'm constantly thinking about my wife. She knows all about the risks that I'm taking so that we can live in peace one day. She's the only one who knows what I'm doing.
A week later, Bilal is in Sweden. The teacher is staying in a centre for refugees in the town of Flen. He's sharing a room with a cousin. Bilal is delighted with the Swedish welcome.
I have the key for my room, my badge for the canteen. I've been given duvets, sheets and bath towels. The Swedes are really very nice.
But Bilal is going to have a big problem.
Yeah, we're going to take your photo and your fingerprints.
The Syrians' fingerprints were first taken in Bulgaria. Here, they're on file in Sweden. According to a European directive, asylum seekers' requests should usually be examined in the first country they enter, meaning Bilal risked being sent back to Bulgaria.
And finally, we go to Gaza, where comedians are laughing at their lack of resources. Finding fuel shortages funny and doing sketches about cement, they have spurned a new form of dark humour.
A production team gets to work in their Gaza studio, making light of sensitive issues with dark humour. Comedians Mahmoud Zoeter and Tayer Munir are part of a group of Palestinian comics who highlight the problems plaguing the strip with a touch of irony. Hemmed in by Israeli and Egyptian blockades, Gazans suffer frequent blackouts.
We live in the midst of suffering, and the comedy stems from the suffering. It tells the story of our issues and concerns, ironically, and makes fun of the reality we live in.
Zueter belongs to a comedy ensemble called Tashwish, Arabic for interference. In this spoof, he parodies a popular advertisement in which Belgian film star Jean-Claude Van Damme does the splits between two moving trucks. Zueter's somewhat less ambitious version highlights the lengths to which Gazans are driven by frequent fuel shortages.
And who can say?
Islam Ayoub has found enough material in Gaza to build a wide-ranging comic repertoire. He takes on child labor, corruption, and child marriages.
We did a routine on cement. There is a shortage in Gaza. It's as prohibited as drugs in Gaza. Now 500,000 are unemployed because of cement shortages. So we like to say, allow the cement to come in, or what are we going to build our tombs with?
Gaza has been under an Israeli blockade since 2006. The closures were tightened after Hamas took over a year later, with restrictions imposed on imports and Palestinians' freedom of movement. These comics found their only option was to look at the absurdities of Gaza life and laugh.
Well, that brings us to the end of this week's show. Don't forget you can always watch those reports or catch up with the latest news from the region online at our website, france24.com. Take care and see you again for more Middle East Matters next time.